He was a millionaire who had everything, except the one thing that actually mattered. 8 years ago, his wife died in a car accident on a rain-soaked highway, or so he was told, because today, driving back to the house he had locked and abandoned 8 years ago, he was about to discover that the most important person in his life was not dead at all. She was living in his house, with his son, and the person who had stolen 8 years from all of them was the person he had trusted most in the world. Hello friends, welcome back to our channel. Before we get into today's story, please take a moment to like this video and hit subscribe. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. We love hearing from you. Now, let us begin. Marcus Webb had a particular relationship with mornings. He did not enjoy them. He did not dread them. He simply moved through them with the efficient joylessness of a man who has organized his life so completely that very little is left to feel. He was 35 years old. His suit was dark navy, recently pressed. His shoes were black and reflected the ceiling of the car interior. His briefcase sat beside him on the back seat, full of property documents and acquisition proposals, and the accumulated paperwork of a man who had turned grief into productivity with the ruthless efficiency of someone who understood that staying busy was the only reliable way to stay numb. Marcus Webb was very busy. He was also, though he would not have said this to anyone and barely admitted it to himself, in the quiet of his penthouse apartment at 2 in the morning when the insomnia arrived like an unwelcome old friend, entirely empty. "Mr. Webb," Thomas said from the front seat, his driver of 4 years, a quiet man who understood without being told that his employer did not want conversation before 9 in the morning. "We will arrive in approximately 25 minutes. Traffic is light today." "Good," Marcus said. He looked out the window. The city moved past. Glass buildings, expensive restaurants, stores selling things that cost more money than Marcus used to make in an entire year when he was young and poor and living on Cedarwood Street with nothing but ambition and a girl he loved completely. Sophia. He never said her name out loud anymore. Not in 8 years, but he thought it every single day. In the mornings when he made coffee for one, and in the evenings when the apartment was too quiet, and in the small hours when sleep would not come, and the city spread out below his windows like a constellation of other people's lives. Sophia Reeves, his wife for 6 months, dead for 8 years, or so he had been told. Marcus pressed his fingers against the bridge of his nose and looked away from the window. He needed to stop this. He needed to focus. Today was a business matter, a simple, clean, efficient business matter. A property development company had offered $220,000 for the house on Cedarwood Street. The neighborhood was being redeveloped. The money was excellent. He just needed to go and photograph the property, confirm the condition, and sign off on the sale. 20 minutes. In and out. Done. For he had been telling himself it would only take 20 minutes for the past 3 weeks since the offer came in. The fact that it had taken him 3 weeks to actually make the trip was something he preferred not to examine too closely. "Mr. Webb," Thomas said, "we are getting close." Marcus straightened in his seat. He knew this part of the city, the buildings getting shorter, the paint on the walls beginning to peel, the streets narrower and older, and full of a particular kind of life that had nothing to do with glass towers and acquisition proposals. This was where he came from. Before the money, before the empire, before everything, he saw kids playing on a street corner, an old man walking a small dog with great ceremony, a woman hanging washing from a second-floor window. The ordinary, unremarkable life of a neighborhood that the property developers were about to knock down and replace with something more profitable. He felt something tighten in his chest. 8 years. 8 years since he had been here. 8 years since he had locked the door of the house on Cedarwood Street and walked away and told himself he was never coming back. "Here," Thomas said quietly. The car stopped. Marcus looked out the window. There it was, the house on Cedarwood Street. It looked terrible. The white paint had gone grey. The fence was falling apart. The garden had been reclaimed by weeds. One of the upstairs windows had a crack running through it like a fault line. The house looked exactly the way Marcus felt on the inside, which, he supposed, was appropriate. He got out of the car. The air smelled like old timber and someone cooking something starchy nearby, and the particular earthy smell of a neighborhood that has not been renovated in a long time. It smelled like his childhood. It smelled like before. He walked toward the house. "Get this done," he told himself. "Take the photographs, sign the papers, sell it, move on." He had been moving on for 8 years without actually going anywhere. One more efficient transaction would not change that. He walked up the porch steps. They creaked under his feet with the familiar complaint of old timber that had not been maintained. He reached into his jacket pocket for the key, the original key from 8 years ago that he had carried with him every single day since without ever being able to explain why. And then he stopped, because there was light coming from inside the house, be a soft, warm yellow glow visible through the dirty front window. Marcus stood very still. His first thought was that someone had left the light on years ago and the electricity had somehow never been cut off. His second thought was that this made no sense. The electricity had been cut off within months of his leaving. He had dealt with it remotely, through a property management company, without ever having to come back himself. He moved closer to the window and looked through the dirty glass. The living room was not empty. There was furniture, a brown sofa with colorful cushions, a wooden coffee table, a rug, toys scattered on the floor, a red toy car, building blocks, a stuffed elephant with one ear slightly flatter than the other from being held too many times. Someone was living in his house. Marcus felt anger move through him with the particular heat of someone whose carefully maintained numbness has been disturbed. This was his house, his property. Who would dare? He walked to the front door and knocked. Silence inside. Then footsteps. Light and careful. Someone moving quietly. The footsteps came closer. The door opened. Just a crack. An eye. A face. A woman's face. Dark eyes. A small scar above the left eyebrow from a bicycle accident at age 11. A beauty mark near the right ear. The particular curve of a jaw that Marcus had memorized so completely that 8 years of absence had not erased a single detail. Marcus's mouth went dry. The world did something strange. It seemed to slow down and speed up at the same time. His briefcase dropped from his hand and hit the porch floor with a sound he barely heard. "Can I help you?" the woman said. Her voice was soft and frightened. He knew that voice. He had heard that voice in his dreams for 8 years. The door opened wider. He saw her fully now, and every single thing he had built in the past 8 years to protect himself from this kind of feeling came apart at once. "Sophia," he said. The word came out as barely a sound, a whisper from somewhere deep and unguarded. The woman's face went white. Her hand gripped the doorframe hard enough that her knuckles changed color. "Marcus," she breathed. They stared at each other. Neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. This was impossible. Completely and entirely impossible because Sophia Reeves was dead. Marcus had been told she was dead. He had attended her funeral, where he had stood at her grave in the rain and felt everything inside him go quiet and cold in a way that it had never fully recovered from. But she was standing right here, right in front of him, alive and real and looking at him with an expression that contained something he could not immediately name. Not joy at seeing him, not the relief of someone reunited with a person they loved. Something more complicated, something with fear in it. "You are dead," Marcus said. His voice was not working properly. "How are you? This is not, you cannot be." "Mum," a small voice from inside the house. "Who is at the door?" Marcus felt his heart stop completely. A small boy appeared behind Sophia, 7 years old perhaps, messy dark hair, wearing a blue t-shirt with a football on it and jeans with grass stains on the knees. He grabbed Sophia's hand and looked up at Marcus with the frank curiosity of a child who has not yet learned to be subtle about staring. Large grey eyes, the exact same shade of grey as Marcus's own. Marcus's knees went weak. The boy had his eyes, his nose, the slightly uneven set of his ears, the left one sitting just fractionally higher than the right, the thing Marcus had been teased about as a child and had largely forgotten about until this precise moment. "Is this man bothering you?" the boy asked Sophia. His voice was trying very hard to sound brave. Marcus could not speak, could not move, could not think. Sophia pulled the boy close to her. When she looked at Marcus now, the fear in her expression had hardened into something else. A warning. "You need to leave," she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. "Right now, Sophia." Marcus managed. "I don't understand. The police told me. There was an accident, a fire. They told me you were." "I know what they told you," Sophia said. Her voice was cold in a way he had never heard from her. Not cold from cruelty, cold from a long time of having to be hard to survive. Now please leave. You are frightening my son. Your son, Marcus said. The words barely made it out of him. Is he? Is he my? He could not finish the question. He did not need to. The answer was in the boy's face, in those grey eyes, in the angle of those ears. This is Caleb, Sophia said, her hand on the boy's shoulder. And you have no place here, no claim, no right, but I am his, Marcus started. You are nothing to him, Sophia said, louder now, her voice cracking slightly at the edges. You left. You believed what you were told and you walked away. I thought you were dead, Marcus said, his voice coming apart. I thought you were dead. I watched them lower your coffin into the ground. Mum, Caleb whispered, I am scared. Make him go away. Sophia picked him up, even though he was too old really to be carried. She held him against her chest with one arm, and with the other she pushed the door. Just go away, Marcus, she said, her voice breaking now too. We do not need you. We have been fine without you. Please just go away. Sophia, Marcus said, please, just tell me what happened. Tell me how you are alive. Why did you? Why did you not? Go away, Sophia said, and she closed the door. The sound of it closing was the loudest thing Marcus had ever heard. He stood on the porch of his own house, staring at a closed door. His whole body was shaking in the particular way that a body shakes when it has received information that it is not equipped to process. Sophia was alive. He had a son. Everything he believed was a lie. He raised his hand to knock again. He stopped. Through the dirty window, he could see Sophia sitting on the sofa, holding Caleb, rocking him gently, both of them shaking. Marcus lowered his hand. He walked back to the car. Each step felt like walking through something thick and resistant. Mr. Webb, Thomas said when Marcus got back in. You look unwell. Is everything all right? Marcus looked at the house, at the warm light in the window, at the shadow of Sophia and his son moving inside. Drive, Marcus said. Sir, just drive, Marcus said. Please, just drive. Thomas drove. And Marcus looked back at the house until it disappeared from view, and the city swallowed it up, and he was left sitting in the back of a car in his expensive suit, with his expensive briefcase, feeling like everything he had built since the worst day of his life had just been revealed as the elaborate fiction it had always been. Marcus did not sleep that night. He sat in his penthouse apartment in the dark. The city spread out below him in its constellation of lights. Usually the view made him feel something adjacent to power. Tonight it made him feel nothing at all. Sophia was alive. He had a son named Caleb. His whole life was a lie. When the sun came up, Marcus was still in the same chair. His suit was crumpled. His phone had 17 unread messages from Claire, his assistant, just about meetings and calls and a presentation that needed his sign-off by noon. He looked at the messages without reading them. Then he opened his contacts and called Claire. She answered immediately. Good morning, Mr. Webb. The Riverside acquisition team are ready for the 9 o'clock and the cancel everything today, Marcus said. I'm sorry? Everything? Cancel it all? Tell them I'll reschedule. A pause. Mr. Webb, the Riverside meeting has been rescheduled twice already. They are expecting Claire, Marcus said quietly. Cancel everything, please. Another pause. Of course. Is everything all right? No, Marcus said honestly, and hung up. He sat for another hour. Then he stood up, went to his bedroom, and changed out of his crumpled suit into simple clothes. Dark jeans, a plain grey shirt, ordinary shoes instead of the ones that reflected things. He looked at himself in the mirror. Without the suit, he looked more like the old Marcus. The Marcus from before the money, the Marcus from Cedarwood Street. He got into his own car, not the company car, not with Thomas, and drove back to the house. He parked down the street where he could see the front door without being seen. At 8:40 in the morning, the front door opened. Sophia came out holding Caleb's hand. Caleb had a school backpack on, dark blue with a silver rocket on the back panel. They walked down the broken front path together. Caleb was talking animatedly about something, gesturing with his free hand, and Sophia was looking down at him and smiling in the particular way of a parent listening to a child's explanation of something that is entirely important to the child and entirely delightful to the parent. They looked happy. Marcus sat in his car and watched them turn the corner and disappear and felt something so large and so complicated move through him that he could not find a name for it. He waited 15 minutes. Then he got out of the car and walked to the house. The front door was locked. Of course it was. He still had his key. The original key that he had carried in his jacket pocket for 8 years without ever quite being able to throw it away. His hand was not steady as he put it in the lock. Click. It still worked. He pushed the door open slowly. The house smelled different from how he remembered it. It smelled like cooking and soap and something sweet and clean, like a home that is actually lived in by people who care about it. Not the cold closed smell of an abandoned place. A warm living smell. Marcus stood in the doorway and looked. The living room had been transformed. His old furniture was gone. In its place was a simple brown sofa with mismatched cushions, a coffee table with crayons and drawing paper on it, pictures on the walls, children's drawings, a house with smoke coming from the chimney, a tree with a swing, a woman and a boy holding hands in front of a sun. No man in any of the drawings. Marcus's throat tightened. He walked through the room quietly, into the kitchen, dishes drying by the sink. 2 sets, 1 adult, 1 child, the refrigerator humming. On the counter, a glass jar containing some coins and a folded note. Marcus picked it up carefully. He unfolded the note. A reminder to buy bread and milk. The handwriting was Sophia's. He would have recognized it anywhere. He put the note back exactly where it was. He walked upstairs. The steps creaked under him the same way they always had. The first bedroom, his old room, was now clearly Caleb's. A small bed with a blue cover, drawings on every wall, toys arranged with the careful organization of a child who has been taught to be tidy because there is not very much and what there is must be looked after. On the small desk, school papers. Marcus picked one up. Caleb Reeves, grade 2, reading assessment, excellent comprehension, very strong vocabulary for his age. Reeves, Sophia's maiden name. Not Webb, not his name. Caleb did not know Marcus existed. Marcus put the paper down carefully. He walked to the next room, Sophia's room, a small bed, a thin blanket, a dresser with a mirror that had a crack running up one corner. On top of the dresser, a photograph in a simple frame. Caleb as a newborn. G impossibly small, wrapped in a hospital blanket, and sleeping with the absolute completeness of a person who has not yet encountered the world's capacity for difficulty. Beside the photograph, a small notebook. Marcus knew he should not look. He looked anyway. Medical bills, page after page of them. Caleb's appointments, medicine, emergency visits. Each one marked either paid in red ink or payment arrangement or still outstanding. While Marcus was sleeping in his penthouse and buying buildings and wearing suits that cost more than most people's rent, Sophia had been here, working, struggling, raising their son alone, paying medical bills with money she clearly did not have enough of. Marcus sat down on the bed. He was still sitting there when he heard the front door open. Caleb's voice. "Mum, can I have the good biscuits today?" It was a terrible day. I deserved the good biscuits. Sophia's laugh, soft and real, and the same laugh Marcus had loved for 6 months and mourned for 8 years. What happened? Oliver took my pencil at lunch and wouldn't give it back, and then Mrs. Patterson made me sit next to the wall during reading time because apparently I was being disruptive, but Oliver started it. Marcus heard footsteps on the stairs, small quick ones. He stood up. He moved to the hallway, and Caleb reached the top of the stairs and saw him. They both froze. Caleb's grey eyes went wide with fear. "Mum," he screamed. "Mum, he is here. The man from yesterday is in our house." Sophia's footsteps came fast and hard up the stairs. She appeared at the top, and when she saw Marcus, her face went through several expressions very quickly. Fear, anger. Something else underneath both of them that Marcus chose not to name because naming it would make everything more complicated. "How did you get in?" she said, moving to put herself between Marcus and Caleb. "I have a key," Marcus said. "I am sorry, I needed to understand. You broke into my home. I know I shouldn't have. I'm sorry. Please just give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes and then I'll go if you want me to." "You have no right to be here," Sophia said. Her voice was shaking. "He is my son," Marcus said. He had not meant to say it that way. The words came out of him before he could manage them, loud and raw and uncontrolled. Caleb made a frightened sound and grabbed Sophia's arm. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. You lost the right to say that when you believed I was dead without questioning it, she said. When you didn't fight for me. When you just accepted what you were told and walked away. I thought you were dead, Marcus said, his voice breaking. What was I supposed to fight? A car accident, a closed coffin, the police. I watched them lower you into the ground, Sophia. And you never wondered, Sophia said quietly, why it was a closed coffin. You never asked to see the body. You never questioned anything at all. Marcus opened his mouth. He closed it. Because she was right. He had not questioned anything. He had been so completely destroyed by what he was told that he had simply accepted it. Had not questioned the speed of it, the closed coffin, the absence of any investigation. Had accepted everything because the grief had been too enormous to see around. Your mother told you I had died, Sophia said. And you believed her exactly the way you believed everything else she ever told you about me. Marcus felt the ground shift under him. What? He said. What are you talking about? Sophia looked at Caleb. Baby, I need you to go to your room, please. Put your headphones on. The ones with the music. Can you do that for me? Caleb was crying now. Is that man going to hurt you? No. Nobody's going to hurt anyone. We are just going to talk. I promise. Caleb looked at Marcus with his grey eyes. Marcus's eyes. Then he turned and went to his room. The door closed. Sophia walked downstairs. Marcus followed. They stood on opposite sides of the small kitchen table. The same kitchen where Marcus had eaten breakfast every morning for the first 20 years of his life. What? The same kitchen where he and Sophia had cooked dinner together on Sunday evenings during the 6 months of their marriage. The same kitchen that now had 2 sets of dishes by the sink and a glass jar of coins on the counter and the weight of 8 years pressing down on every surface. You get 5 minutes, Sophia said. Her voice was steady now. The way a voice goes steady when it has spent a long time being the only voice in the room. Marcus looked at her. This woman he had loved. This woman he had mourned. This woman who was standing in front of him alive and real and full of a sadness and a strength that had not been there 6 months into a marriage that had barely had time to begin. Tell me, he said quietly. Tell me everything. Sophia took a breath. She began. Your mother hated me from the moment you brought me home, Sophia said. Her hands were flat on the table. Not shaking now, just still. Did you know that? Marcus started to say no, stopped, because the honest answer was more complicated than no. He had known that his mother had reservations about Sophia. He had told himself they were manageable, that she would come around, that time would fix it. He had been very good at telling himself comfortable things. She never said it directly. Sophia continued. That was not her way. She was too careful for direct. It was small things first, comments that sounded like jokes but weren't. She would say things like, oh, that is an interesting dress, Sophia, or I'm sure your cooking is improving. Nathan used to love my chicken. Small things, constant things, like water finding the cracks. When did it get worse? Marcus said quietly. After we got married, Sophia said. She started calling me every day. Sometimes twice. She would tell me I was doing everything wrong, cleaning wrong, cooking wrong, being a wife wrong. She said I was going to ruin your life. She said you were too kind to tell me the truth, but that she could see it. That you were already regretting marrying me. Marcus felt sick. Why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I could handle it, Sophia said. Because I thought if I tried harder, she would come around. Because every time I was about to tell you, I would hear her voice in my head, saying you'll choose me over her. He always chooses me. She laughed softly. It was not a happy sound. She knew exactly how to make me doubt myself. She was very good at it. Marcus sat down at the kitchen table. His legs were not entirely reliable. Then, Sophia said, 2 months after we married, I found out I was pregnant. The kitchen went very quiet. I was so happy, Sophia said, her voice going soft for the first time. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to tell you that night. I had planned this whole dinner. I was going to make your favorite. Chicken with lemon and herbs, light candles. Tell you over dessert. She paused. I never got to make the dinner. What happened? Your mother came that afternoon, Sophia said. Before you got home. She closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. She sat down across from me at this table. She put her handbag on the surface right there. She told me she did not like me and had never liked me, and that I was not right for her son. She told me I was dragging you down. She offered me money, $50,000, to disappear, to leave and never tell you where I had gone. Marcus's jaw was tight. And you said no. I said no immediately, Sophia said. I said I loved you, that we were married, that we were building a life together. She looked at him with something in her eyes that was not quite sadness and not quite anger, but held elements of both. She told me I was a weight around your neck. She told me you were too kind to say so yourself. She told me that deep down I knew she was right. Sophia stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at the small back garden where someone had planted a few things in containers. Trying to make something grow in a small space. I told her to leave, Sophia said. She left. But before she went, she said something I have never forgotten. She said this conversation is not over. She said you will leave my son's life, one way or another. And then she called me every day, Sophia said. For 2 months, every single day, sometimes twice, telling me I was worthless, telling me I was ruining your life, telling me the kindest thing I could do for you was to disappear. And I didn't tell you because I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. And I was afraid that if you did believe me, it would destroy your relationship with your mother, and I loved you too much to want to cause that damage. Marcus pressed both hands over his face. Evelyn, he said. Sophia, she said quietly. I'm Sophia. I know. I'm sorry. Marcus stopped. I should have seen it. I should have known what she was doing. She was your mother, Sophia said. You trusted her. That's what mothers are supposed to be for. She was 3 days after I took the pregnancy test. Sophia continued. She came back to this house. I don't know how she found out. Maybe she was watching me. Maybe she had someone watching me. But she came back and she was angrier than I had ever seen her. She told me that a baby was not going to trap her son. She told me she had given me a chance to leave with dignity and I had refused. She said now we would do it the hard way. What did she mean? Marcus said. She told me that if I didn't disappear voluntarily, she would make sure everyone thought I was mentally unstable. She said she would get doctors to agree that I was dangerous, that I was not fit to be a mother. She said she would make sure I lost the baby, and she would make sure you believed every word of it because she was your mother and I was nobody. Marcus stood up. His chair scraped against the old floor. That is when I knew I had to run, Sophia said. I had to protect the baby. I had to protect myself. So I packed one bag. I took what money I had, about $300, and in the middle of the night I left. And the accident, Marcus said, the car fire, the police. Your mother staged it, Sophia said simply. The kitchen was very quiet. I was walking to the bus station, Sophia said. I was going to buy a ticket to anywhere that wasn't here. I was nearly at the station when a black car pulled up beside me. Your mother got out. She had 2 men with her. Large men. She said she had given me a chance to leave on my own terms. Now we were doing it her way. Marcus felt the room tilt slightly. They took my bag, Sophia said. Her voice was entirely steady now. The steadiness of someone who has told a story to herself so many times that the telling of it has become separate from the feeling of it. They put me in the car. They drove me to a warehouse on the east side, empty, dark, far from anything. Your mother's warehouse, Marcus said. She owned it. Yes. She told me to get into another car that was waiting. An old car. She told me to drive it to the bridge on Parkway 40. To park it there. To leave everything inside that identified me. My wallet, my phone, my ID. And then to walk away and never come back. And if you didn't, she made it very clear, Sophia said. If I didn't do it on my own, they would make it happen without my cooperation. And it would look like an accident, and no one would ever know the difference. Sophia turned away from the window and looked at Marcus directly. I was pregnant, she said. I was alone. I was terrified. I did what she said. She drove to the bridge. She parked the car. She put everything inside that had her name on it. Boy, she got out. And then, Sophia said, the men came back in a different car. I watched them pour accelerant over that old car. The car I had been sitting in minutes before. I watched them set it on fire. I could feel the heat from where I was standing. Marcus sat back down. His legs had stopped being reliable. My wallet was in that car, Sophia said. My phone. Everything that said I was Sophia Reeves. Everything burned, and anyone who found it would think I had burned with it. She looked at him. Your mother drove past one more time. She rolled down the window and threw an envelope at my feet. She said you are officially dead now. That is what the police will be told. That is what my son will be told. And if you ever try to come back, if you ever try to contact Marcus, if you ever try to tell anyone the truth, I will make sure you really do die. And I will make sure that baby dies too. The silence in the kitchen was absolute. Then she drove away, Sophia said, and left me there, standing in the rain, pregnant, alone, with nothing except the clothes I was wearing and an envelope containing $5,000. 5,000, Marcus said. The words came out flat, like something drained of all its content. That is what she thought I was worth, Sophia said. $5,000 and a burning car. Marcus did not say anything for a long time. He sat at the kitchen table in the house where he had grown up, and he looked at the woman he had loved and mourned and thought about the woman who had raised him and what she had done with the love and the trust he had given her his entire life. I didn't know, he said finally, his voice barely there. I swear to you, Sophia, I did not know any of this. I know you didn't, Sophia said. She sat down across from him. If I had thought you knew, I would never have. She stopped. I know you didn't know. What did you do? Marcus said. After that night. Where did you go? Sophia told him. She had walked for miles in the rain, found a cheap motel, stayed there for weeks, barely moving, barely eating, in a kind of trauma-induced paralysis that she had not fully understood at the time and understood better now. Eventually, she had made herself get up, get moving. She had gone to another city, used her middle name, found a room, found work, saved every dollar she could. She came back when she was pregnant because she had nowhere else to go, and she knew the house on Cedarwood Street was empty and abandoned, and she had thought, she had hoped, that Marcus had forgotten about it, that no one would ever come. She had been living here for nearly 7 years, 2 jobs, a night cleaning shift at an office building, days at a grocery store, barely enough to cover food and Caleb's school things and the occasional medical bill. She had been hiding every single day and praying every single day that Webb would never find out where she was. Marcus looked around the kitchen, at the jar of coins on the counter, at the 2 sets of dishes by the sink, at the drawings on the walls, at the evidence of a life built by one person where there should have been 2. My mother, he said. His voice had changed. There was something in it now that had not been there before, a quietness that was not peace. The quietness of something that has finally fully understood something and will not look away from it. He stood up. What are you going to do? Sophia asked. There was fear in the question. I am going to speak to her, Marcus said. Sophia. She started. Wait here, he said. Keep Caleb close. Lock the doors. Don't open them for anyone except me. Marcus. I'll be back, he said. I promise. And he walked out. He drove too fast. His hands gripped the wheel hard. His jaw was set. His eyes were fixed on the road ahead, with the particular focus of someone who has been moving in circles for 8 years and has just worked out where they actually need to be going. Webb lived on the wealthy northern side of the city, in a house with white columns and a perfectly maintained lawn and a garden that had been designed by a professional and was maintained by 2 people who came every Thursday. Everything about the house was designed to communicate a certain kind of person, controlled, elegant, immovable. Marcus had grown up thinking those were virtues. He pulled into the driveway with a screech of tires, got out, did not knock, used his key. Mother. His voice went through the house. Mother, I know you're here. Heels on marble, getting closer. Vivian appeared at the top of the staircase. She was wearing cream and pearls. Her hair was perfect. Her face was composed. It was always composed. Nathan, darling, she said. Then she stopped, looked at his face. Something flickered in her expression. What on earth has happened to you? You look dreadful. Come in and let me make you. Sophia is alive, Marcus said. He said it quietly. No drama in the delivery. Just the fact. Vivian descended the last few stairs and moved toward the sitting room. I'm sorry, darling. What did you say? You heard me, Marcus said. Sophia, my wife. The woman you told me died 8 years ago. She is alive. She is living in our old house on Cedarwood Street. And she has a son, a 7-year-old boy with my eyes and my nose who does not know I exist because his mother has spent 7 years hiding from you. Vivienne sat down on her white sofa. She crossed her legs. She picked up a teacup. Nathan, she said. Marcus. Whatever, Vivienne said, and the dismissiveness of it, the casual replacement of his name with the wrong name, made something cold settle in Marcus's chest. I think you need to sit down. You are clearly overwhelmed by something. Perhaps you have been working too. Don't, Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but there was a quality in it that Vivienne had not heard from him before. Don't tell me I am overwhelmed. Don't tell me I need to rest. Don't manage me. I am not 12 years old, and you are not going to manage me through this. Tell me the truth. Vivienne looked at him over the rim of her teacup. There was a long silence. The truth, she said. She told me everything, Marcus said. She told me about the men you hired, the warehouse you owned, the car on the bridge, the money you gave her. She told me you threatened her. She told me you threatened an unborn child. She told me you staged her death and told the police she had been killed in an accident because you could not accept that I had married someone you had not chosen for me. Vivienne set down her teacup. And you believed her, she said. Yes, Marcus said. I believed her. You believed a woman living illegally in an abandoned property over your own mother. I believed her because she told the truth, Marcus said, and because the truth has a quality to it that I should have been paying more attention to years ago. Vivienne's composure cracked. Not completely. Not the way softer people's composure cracks. Just at the edges, a slight tightening around the eyes. A slight elevation in the quality of stillness. Whatever she told you, Vivienne said, whatever story she has constructed, I want you to think carefully before you... She was pregnant. What? Marcus said. When you threatened her, she was pregnant with my child. And she spent 7 years raising that child alone, in an abandoned house with 2 jobs and a jar of coins on the kitchen counter, and medical bills she could barely pay. While I was sleeping in a penthouse apartment and turning grief into money because grief was the only honest thing I had left and you had manufactured it. You manufactured my grief. You manufactured 8 years of my life. Something moved behind Vivienne's eyes. I did what any mother would do, she said. No, Marcus said. A mother does not do what you did. A mother who loves her son does not destroy his life to maintain control over it. A mother who loves her son wants him to be happy, even when that happiness is not the version she would have designed. I was protecting you, Vivienne said. Sorry, her voice going colder now. Harder. From what? Marcus said. From a woman who loved me. From a family. From happiness. From mediocrity, Vivienne said. The word came out clean and hard and entirely without apology. She was a waitress, Marcus. She had no education, no prospects, no connections. You could have been anything. You could have built something extraordinary, and you were going to throw all of it away to play house with a girl from a diner. I was happy, Marcus said. The words came out simple and raw. I was genuinely happy for the first time in my adult life. And you took it from me. You became successful, Vivienne said. I became empty, Marcus said. There is a difference, and you know it because you looked at my face every time you saw me for 8 years, and you knew it. You knew what you had done, and you watched me be empty, and you said nothing. For the first time, something that might have been guilt moved through Vivienne's expression. It moved quickly. It did not stay. It worked out for the best, Vivienne said. You are wealthy. You are respected. You are... Marcus reached into his jacket pocket. He placed a document on the table between them. What is this? Vivienne said. Read it, Marcus said. Vivienne picked it up. She read it slowly. Her expression did not change, but her hands tightened slightly on the paper. This is a legal document, Marcus said. It states that you will have no contact with Sophia or Caleb. No communication, no approach, no attempts to interfere with their lives in any way, direct or indirect. If you sign it, we handle this between ourselves. If you don't sign it, I go to the police with everything Sophia has told me and everything else I have been gathering. Vivienne looked up. What else? She said. Marcus's father appeared in the doorway. Vivienne went very still. Daniel, she said. Her voice had changed completely. What are you doing here? Daniel Webb was 64 years old. He was tall like Marcus, with grey at his temples and the quiet, careful face of a man who has spent a long time paying attention to things without saying everything he noticed. He had been divorced from Vivian for 3 years. It had been a difficult and expensive divorce. It had also been, he had told Marcus privately, the best decision of his adult life. He was carrying a folder. "Hello, Vivian," Daniel said. He came into the room and placed the folder on the table beside Marcus's document. Bank statements," he said. "From when we were married. I kept copies of everything." His voice was entirely calm. Not cold, just precise. "There are payments here. To a company called Meridian Security Services. $50,000 3 days after Sophia's supposed accident, then $20,000 2 weeks later." Vivian looked at the folder. "And there is an email," Daniel continued, "from the director of Meridian Security Services confirming that a matter had been handled as requested and that all identifying materials had been disposed of at the specified location." He looked at his ex-wife with the expression of someone who has finally found the explanation for a thing that has troubled them for a long time. "I also found records showing that you owned a warehouse on the east side. You bought it the year before Sophia disappeared. You sold it 6 months after." Vivian said nothing. "The director of Meridian Security Services," Marcus said. "His name is Victor Shaw. The company went out of business 5 years ago. My father tracked him down." A man appeared in the doorway beside Daniel. 60s, grey hair, tired eyes, the eyes of someone who has been carrying something heavy for a long time and is both relieved and frightened to be setting it down. He looked at Vivian. Vivian looked at him. Something moved through her expression that was closer to fear than anything Marcus had seen there before. "I should not have done it," Victor Shaw said. His voice was rough but steady. "I told myself it was just business. That the woman would be fine. That she would take the money and start over and no one would really be hurt." He shook his head. "But a pregnant woman, saw alone in the rain, telling her that her baby would die if she ever came back." He looked at Vivian with an expression that was not anger, but something quieter and more final. "That was not just business. That was something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life." Vivian stood up. "This is," she started. "Evidence," Marcus said. "It is all evidence, and it is all real, and it is all sitting on your coffee table right now." He looked at his mother, the woman he had trusted his entire life, the woman he had believed without question, the woman whose grief had felt like love and whose love had been, in the end, something much more about ownership than about care. "You have a choice," he said. "Sign the document and stay out of their lives forever. Or we go to the police today, all of us, with all of this. And you spend whatever you have left of your life fighting a criminal case." Vivian looked at the document. She looked at the bank statements. She looked at Victor Shaw. She looked at Daniel. She looked at Marcus. And something in her face that had been rigid and controlled and composed for 62 years gave way. Not dramatically, not with tears or shouting, just a slow settling, like a building accepting that the ground beneath it has changed. "If I sign this," she said, "what happens to me?" "You stay here," Marcus said, "in your house, with your life, untouched, but you never go near them, never." A long silence. "And if I don't, then I go to the police," Marcus said, "and whatever happens after that is not in my hands." Vivian reached out. She picked up the pen from the table. She signed the document. Marcus took it from her. He checked the signature. He folded the document and put it in his jacket pocket. He looked at his mother for a long moment. He thought about everything she had ever given him, the education, the expectations, the careful construction of a version of himself that was ambitious and disciplined and successful and entirely her design. He thought about the love that had felt real and had been real in its way, but that had had conditions on it that he had not understood until now. He thought about a jar of coins on a kitchen counter. He thought about a small boy with his eyes who had never known his name. "I don't know when I will see you again," Marcus said. "Maybe someday. Maybe not for a very long time. What you did, I don't know how to forgive it. I don't know if I can. She was not good enough," Vivian said. Her voice was quiet now. The fight had gone out of it, but the belief hadn't. Not entirely. "I still think she made me happy," Marcus said simply. That was enough. That was always enough. And he walked out. Daniel fell in step beside him on the driveway. Victor Shaw nodded to them both and got into his car and drove away quickly, like a man who has done a difficult thing and would like to stop thinking about it as soon as possible. "I am sorry," Daniel said to Marcus. "I should have known what she was capable of. I should have protected you better. Marcus shook his head. You didn't know. I should have seen it, Daniel said. She was my wife for 30 years. I should have seen it. Marcus put his hand briefly on his father's shoulder. Come with me, he said. There is someone I need you to meet. 2 cars, father and son. Driving back through the city toward the house on Cedarwood Street, toward the part of Marcus's life that had been waiting for him while he was elsewhere being empty. They parked outside the house. Marcus sat in his car for a moment after the engine went off. He thought about what he was about to do, what he was about to say. He had confronted his mother. He had the signed document. He had the evidence. Sophia and Caleb were safe now in the legal and practical sense of the word. But there was still the harder thing. There was still the conversation with a 7-year-old boy who did not know he had a father. Marcus got out of the car. He knocked on the door. Sophia opened it almost immediately. She had been watching from the window. Her face moved through several things at once when she saw him. It's done, Marcus said. She signed the document. She won't come near you. Sophia pressed her hand over her mouth. She won't, he said again. I promise. And he held up the document. Sophia reached out and took it. She read it slowly. Then she held it against her chest with both hands and closed her eyes and breathed in a way that Marcus had not seen her breathe since the door opened yesterday, like someone who has been holding their breath for 7 years and has finally been given permission to stop. Daniel stepped forward from behind Marcus. Sophia opened her eyes. She looked at Daniel. Sophia, Daniel said. He looked at her the way you look at someone you have mourned and not expected to see again. His voice was not entirely steady. I am so glad you're alive. Hello, Mr. Webb, Sophia said softly. Please, Daniel said. After all of this, call me Daniel. They stood on the porch for a moment, 3 people assembled by a long and tangled history, trying to work out what comes next. Can we come in? Marcus said. Yes, Sophia said. She stepped aside. Please, come in. They went in. The small sitting room, the brown sofa and the mismatched cushions and Caleb's drawings on the walls. Daniel sat in the armchair and looked around the room with an expression that contained a great deal that he kept to himself. Marcus stood near the window. Where is Caleb? Marcus asked. Upstairs, Sophia said. He came home from school and I said we were going to have a family conversation and he went very still and asked if he was in trouble. She almost smiled. He is not in trouble, I told him. He went upstairs to wait. He is very good at waiting. He has had a lot of practice at it. Marcus looked at the ceiling, while at the sound of small movements in the room above. I want to tell him today, Marcus said, if that is all right with you. Sophia sat down on the sofa. She put her hands in her lap. She looked at them for a moment. I have been thinking about how to tell him for 7 years, she said. I have never found the right way. I have never found the right words. There are no right words, Marcus said. There is only the truth. Sophia looked up at him. He looked back at her. 8 years of distance and grief and manufactured absence between them. And underneath all of it, something that had not quite been extinguished by any of it. I know, Sophia said finally. You're right. Shall I get him? Yes, Marcus said. Please. Sophia went upstairs. Marcus heard her quiet knock on Caleb's door, the murmur of her voice, then footsteps, small ones. Caleb appeared at the bottom of the stairs. He was wearing different clothes from this morning, a green jumper now. His dark hair was slightly more under control, as though he had made an effort. He was holding a folded piece of paper in both hands. He looked at Marcus with those grey eyes that were not Sophia's eyes. Hello, Caleb, Marcus said. Hello, Caleb said. His voice was carefully neutral. My name is Marcus, Marcus said. I don't know if your mum told you anything about me. She said you were going to tell me something important, Caleb said. He held the folded paper tighter. She said it might be a bit surprising. It might be, Marcus said. Can you sit down for a minute? Caleb sat on the sofa beside Sophia. He looked at Daniel briefly and then back at Marcus. Marcus pulled up a chair and sat across from them so he was at Caleb's eye level. He thought about all the careful, elegant ways to say a thing and decided that none of them were as good as the simple, direct truth. Caleb, Marcus said, I am your father. Caleb went very still. His hands tightened on the folded paper. I know that must be very strange to hear, Marcus continued. I know you don't know me at all. And I know that I haven't been here for your whole life so far. That's not because I didn't want to be. That's because I didn't know you existed. Someone told me your mum had died before you were born, and I believed it, and I was wrong to believe it, without asking more questions, and I am going to regret that for the rest of my life. Caleb was looking at him with the focused seriousness of someone who is processing a large amount of information very carefully. Why did someone tell you that? Caleb said. Because they didn't want us to be a family, Marcus said. Someone made a bad choice and it hurt all of us. Me and your mum and you, especially you. Who was it? Caleb said. Marcus paused. Sophia put her hand on Caleb's knee. Someone who made a mistake, Sophia said quietly. Someone who thought they were doing the right thing and was very wrong. But that is not what matters today. What matters today, Marcus said, is that I know the truth now, and I am here, and I am not going anywhere. Caleb looked at him very carefully. You have the same eyes as me, Caleb said. Yes, Marcus said. I do. And your ears are a bit uneven. The left one is higher. Yes, Marcus said. So are yours. Caleb touched his own left ear briefly. Then he looked at Daniel. Who is he? Caleb said. That is Daniel, Marcus said. He is my father, which makes him your grandfather. Daniel leaned forward slightly in the armchair. Hello, Caleb, he said gently. I have been wanting to meet you for a very long time, even longer than I knew it. Caleb looked at Daniel, then back at Marcus. If you're my dad, Caleb said slowly, where have you been? It was a direct question, the kind that deserved a direct answer. I was in the city, Marcus said. I have lived here the whole time, in an apartment not far from here. I had a lot of money and a lot of work, and I was very busy being both of those things. But the honest answer is that I was also very sad, because I thought I had lost your mum, and I didn't know that I had you. And being sad and not knowing about you meant that I spent 8 years being in the wrong place doing the wrong things. Caleb absorbed this. Are you sad now? He said. No, Marcus said. Right now I am not sad at all. Caleb unfolded the paper he had been holding. He turned it around and showed it to Marcus. It was a drawing, a house, a tree, a sun, 4 stick figures standing in front of the house, a woman and a boy, and beside them, 2 men. Marcus's throat went tight. I drew this at my granddad's house, Caleb said, looking at Daniel. Earlier when the grown-ups were talking. He pointed to each figure. That's my mum, that's me, that's Marcus, that's the other man who I didn't know his name yet. It is beautiful, Marcus managed. I didn't know what to call the tall one, Caleb said, pointing at the stick figure beside the boy. I wasn't sure what to call you. You can call me whatever feels right, Marcus said. You don't have to call me Dad. Not yet. Not until it feels true to you. Caleb considered this very seriously. Can I call you Marcus for now? He said. Of course you can, Marcus said. And then maybe Dad later, Caleb said. If it feels right. Then maybe Dad later, Marcus said. Caleb nodded as though this arrangement was entirely satisfactory. He looked at Sophia. Mum, is he going to stay? Like actually stay? Yes, Sophia said. She looked at Marcus when she said it. If he wants to. I want to, Marcus said, looking at Sophia. I want to very much. Something moved in Sophia's eyes. Not quite the thing it used to be. Not 6 months of marriage and uncomplicated happiness. Something older and more careful and more honestly earned than that. Something that had been tested in the specific and brutal way that only real things get tested. Good, Caleb said, with the practicality of someone who has made a decision and would like to move forward. Then you can help me with something. What's that? Marcus said. I need to get better at football, Caleb said. I am not very good. The other children at school are better. Oliver is especially better, and Oliver is also the one who took my pencil, so I would particularly like to be better than Oliver at something. Marcus almost laughed, a real laugh, the kind he had not heard from himself in a very long time. I played football all through school, he said. I can teach you. Caleb's face changed. Not all at once. Children's faces do not change all at once, but something in it opened slightly. Like a door that has been closed for a long time and has just been offered a reason to move. Can we go now? Caleb said. There's a space in the back garden. Now, Marcus said. Now, Caleb said. Marcus looked at Sophia. She shook her head, but she was almost smiling. Go, she said. Both of you go. Daniel stood up. He looked at Sophia. Would you mind if I stayed and had a cup of tea? He said. I expect you and I have a great deal to talk about. I expect we do, Sophia said. They went to the kitchen, and Marcus and Caleb went out the back door into the garden. It was not much of a garden. A small square of grass that Sophia had been trying to keep maintained between working 2 jobs and raising a child alone. There was one container with some flowers struggling in it, a football near the fence that had lost some of its air. Caleb picked up the ball. He looked at it, then at Marcus. It's a bit flat, he said. We can fix that, Marcus said. Caleb bounced it experimentally. It gave a dull thud against the ground and did not bounce very high. I told Mum we needed a pump, Caleb said. She said she'd get one when she had more money. I have a pump in my car, Marcus said. You do. I keep one for the tires, but it works for footballs too. Oh, Caleb said. That's useful. Marcus went to the car and came back with the pump. He attached it to the ball and pumped it up while Caleb watched with the focused attention of someone learning how something works. When the ball was properly inflated, Caleb bounced it again. This time it came back up properly. Better, Caleb said with satisfaction. Much better, Marcus agreed. They set up a small makeshift goal using the flower pot at one end and a stick at the other. Marcus taught Caleb about controlling the ball before you kick it, about looking up before you pass, about planting your standing foot beside the ball when you shoot. Caleb was not good. He was enthusiastic and determined and completely uncoordinated in the specific charming way of a 7-year-old who has not yet had anyone to teach him. He also did not give up. After the 5th time he sent the ball into the fence instead of the goal, he looked at it with genuine fury. Why does it keep going the wrong way? He said. Because you are looking at the ball when you kick it instead of looking at where you want it to go, Marcus said. Caleb tried again. This time he looked at the goal first, then at the ball, then he kicked it. It went directly between the flower pot and the stick. Caleb looked at the goal, then at Marcus. I did it, he said. You did it, Marcus said. And something happened in Caleb's face that Marcus recognized from his own face in the very few photographs of himself as a child that he had ever looked at. The particular expression of someone who has just done something they were not sure they could do and has understood for the first time that they are capable of more than they knew. Do you think I can be better than Oliver? Caleb said. I think, Marcus said, that Oliver should be very worried. Caleb grinned. It was the first time Marcus had seen him grin. It was a very good grin, familiar in the way that things are familiar when they have come from you. They played until the light began to go golden and soft across the small garden, until Caleb's enthusiasm began to outpace his remaining energy and his kicks became wilder and less accurate, and his explanations of what had gone wrong with each one became more elaborate and creative. Finally, Caleb sat down on the grass. Marcus sat beside him. They were quiet for a moment, the garden around them, the house behind them. Inside, the sound of Sophia and Daniel talking in the kitchen, the kettle, a low laugh. Marcus, Caleb said. Yes. Are you rich? Marcus looked at him. Yes, he said. I have money. Caleb pulled at the grass thoughtfully. Mum cries sometimes, he said, at night when she thinks I'm asleep. About the bills. I know, Marcus said. Are you going to help her? Caleb said. So she doesn't have to work the night job anymore. She's tired all the time. She says she isn't, but she is. Yes, Marcus said. I am going to help her. I should have been helping all along. That is not going to happen anymore. Caleb nodded, satisfied. Then he said, Are you going to live with us? Marcus was quiet for a moment. That is a big question, he said. I know, Caleb said. I'm good at big questions. I don't know yet, Marcus said, honestly. Your mum and I have a lot of things to talk about. We haven't seen each other in a very long time and there is a lot to figure out. But whatever happens, whether we live together or not, I am going to be here. Every day. Do you understand? Caleb thought about this. Like how some dads live in different houses, but they still come to things. He said. Like that, Marcus said. Yes. Oliver's dad lives in a different house, Caleb said. But he still comes to football matches and birthday parties and sometimes just on Tuesdays for no reason. I will come on Tuesdays, Marcus said. I will come on every day that you want me to come. Caleb looked at him with those grey eyes. Do you promise? He said. Marcus thought about promises, about how easy they are to make and how heavy they are to carry, about how he had lived for 8 years inside the wreckage of promises that had been broken before they were ever made. I promise, he said, and I keep promises. That is something you can find out about me as you get to know me. I keep every promise I make. Caleb pulled at another piece of grass. He looked at it. Okay, he said. Okay, Marcus said. They sat in the garden as the light went golden. After a moment, Caleb leaned very slightly to the left. Not enough to be a lean, just enough to close some of the distance between them. Marcus noticed it. He stayed very still so as not to disturb it. They sat like that as the sky went from gold to pink to the first pale grey of a city evening coming in. Inside the house behind them, Sophia was drinking tea at the kitchen table with the man who had been her father-in-law and was perhaps going to be her family again, talking about all the things that needed to be talked about, all the difficult, careful rebuilding that was ahead. It would not be easy. It would not be quick. 8 years was a long time, and it had left marks on all of them that would not simply disappear because the truth had finally come out, and a document had been signed, and the woman had been confronted, and the boy had been told the truth. But it was a beginning, and beginnings Marcus had forgotten somewhere in the non-productive emptiness of the last 8 years were the best thing there was. The specific and irreplaceable possibility of a beginning, the particular grace of a thing that has not yet decided what it is going to become. Caleb, Marcus said. Yes, thank you. For today, for the football. Caleb shrugged with the elaborate casualness of a 7-year-old trying not to show that something mattered to him. You're not bad, he said, for someone who hasn't played in a while. Marcus smiled, a real smile, the kind that reaches the eyes, the kind he had not managed in a very long time. Shall we go in, he said. Caleb stood up. He picked up the football and held it under one arm with the confidence of someone who has recently done something they are proud of. He looked at Marcus. Then he did something that Marcus had not expected and was not prepared for and would remember for the rest of his life. He reached out and took Marcus's hand, briefly, just for a moment. The hand of a 7-year-old in the hand of a man who had been his father for 7 years without knowing it. Come on then, Caleb said. Mum was making pasta. Okay, Marcus said. His voice was not entirely steady. Okay, let's go in. And they walked back through the garden toward the house together. The house on Cedarwood Street. The house that had been locked and abandoned and then quietly lived in while the world outside forgot about it. The house that had waited. The house that remembered everything. And that, friends, is the story of Marcus and Sophia and Caleb. A man who had everything and was empty. A woman who had nothing and was full. A child who had grown up without a father and who asked him whether he was going to be better than Oliver at football. But Marcus did not save Sophia. Sophia had been saving herself and her son for 7 years before Marcus arrived. She had been doing it with 2 jobs and a jar of coins and the particular ferocity of a person who has been told they are worth nothing and has decided that the telling is wrong. Vivian Webb did not love her son. She owned him. There is a critical difference, and it is the difference between a parent and a warden. Vivian understood control, and she understood ambition, and she understood the precise mechanics of making a person doubt themselves into compliance. What she did not understand, and could not understand, because it required a kind of imagination she had systematically closed off in herself over 62 years, was that happiness is not something you can design for another person. It is something they have to find themselves. Marcus found it on Cedarwood Street, in a house he came to sell and stayed in a boy with his eyes who wanted to be better at football than Oliver, in a woman who had survived everything that was thrown at her and was still standing. Daniel Webb said something quietly to Sophia at the kitchen table that evening that she wrote down in the back of her notebook later that night. He said some broken things can be put back together. Not the same as before, better than before, because the putting back together is part of what they become. She thought about that for a long time. She thought it might be true. If this story moved you, please give it a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and leave us a comment. Have you ever discovered that something you believed completely was not the truth? Have you ever had to rebuild something from the beginning? Have you ever been handed a beginning when you expected nothing? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one. And if you are new here, welcome. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story. We are here every week with stories that remind us what it means to be human. Wherever you are watching from tonight, thank you for being here. Take care of each other out there. We will see you in the next story.